This episode of the Neurodivergent Experience is brought to you by RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900. To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Hello and welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. I'm Jordan James, also known as the Autistic Photographer, and I'm joined by my co-host and mustachioed friend, Simon Scott.
For this episode of the Neurodivergent Experience, we are once again talking to Summer Farrelly, an autistic inclusion advocate and animal behaviourist. As much as we're laughing, we're talking about bullying today. I'm going to have to do that again. I can't keep that in. Great.
Hi Summer, how are you doing?
Good. Cold. It's 11 degrees. Well, I've just moved here and I come from the land of it's always cold.
I love how you're saying like you're from the land
hot.
of where it's always cold and where I'm literally sat in Manchester right now. Yeah, I was going to say
I have not experienced
it's not the land of the
beneath
cold.
17 degrees until I moved.
Simon, can you please stop bullying Summer?
This is about awareness, and I understand that you're just trying to give out an example so people understand what bullying is, but
I feel like you're being
you know what, just like what they bullying, no way, as they said in the school. It's not bullying, it's banter.
Okay, so that's actually a really, really great leading point, is the fact that, okay, so we're doing an episode on bullying. All three of us were bullied. The opening chapter of my book is all about bullying and all the experiences of all the different autistic people who participated and the experiences of bullying that they had. And to be fair, I wanted to put it at the beginning of the book because I think it's something that the majority, if not nearly all of us, go through some type of bullying, whether it's mental bullying, physical bullying, verbal bullying, ostracization, just being treated like an outsider and like you don't belong is a type of bullying. So for every tragic story that is told, I always end up putting that down to how we're treated as children because, you know, at the end of the day, that's where we're shaped. We're shaped as children and as teenagers into the adults that we become. And that is hugely, hugely affected by the negative treatment we receive from bullies. Now, those bullies can be fellow children or fellow teenagers. They can be adult bullies. They can be, you know, like teachers. Even in my case, parents. I was bullied by my own parents. You can be bullied by grandparents. I was bullied by one of my grandparents. And that is the most hurtful thing, is when you get bullied by the people that you trust. And that happened to me on multiple occasions, but it happened also with people I thought were my friends, where they would become my friends and either turn on me because it made them more popular to then pick on me, or they were just becoming my friend to tease me, you know, to trick me or to use me to try and get something from me. And as soon as they couldn't get that from me, they then turned on me. How was it for you, Summer?
In my experience, surprisingly, or at least kind of surprisingly, in my opinion, it was mostly teachers. Borderline disappointing, to be honest, because I'm like 10 and they're an adult and they're supposed to teach me things. I've been to 4 different schools during primary school because it wasn't going too well for me. And the one I went to for the longest, their classroom setup was you had 2 teachers and 50 students per class.
That's mad.
It was kind of split into 2 ends with the 2 teachers, but you'd switch ends and it was, I don't know, not a fan. There wasn't a lot of consistency there. And I can tell a beautiful story about the fact, I say beautiful, not beautiful story, about how we one day drew straws and then switched ends of the classroom. So actually switched my main teacher, which I wasn't a fan of because I'd gotten used to one of them and then I just had to move to the other side of the room and all my desk and my stuff. And I'm like, no, don't do that to me, please.
So bad.
So naturally, I just started sobbing, as one does. And the teacher pulled me up in front of the class and told me that it was disrespectful that I was crying because I couldn't sit near my friends. And joke's on her, at this point I had no friends, so I don't know who I was supposed to be wanting to sit near. And basically, she did that and then told me about how I made a scene, and she pulled me in front of the class to make a point on how people shouldn't do what I was doing, which was crying. Because it was a distracting thing and because it was silly. And then I was kicked out of the classroom. So that's a nice example, I think, in my opinion, of a teacher who needs to have a better grip on how to be a person and a polite person, particularly because I was 10.
I think it does often come down to a lack of understanding of these teachers and self-confidence. I think a lot of them view their job is to discipline over education. It's, I will control you children because, I've seen a TV show where children are all rowdy and, we've got to put these kids in their place. Better seen, not heard, that sort of nonsense.
I was going to say, she just had something against me too because, so are you familiar with the Melbourne Cup? Or is that too Australian? It's a horse racing.
Then I am not.
So I had to watch that in class, which I didn't want to because, in my opinion, horse racing is quite cruel. And just, to elaborate on that, one of the horses at the end of that very race that we were forced to watch was shot because they broke their leg during the race.
It
happens a lot.
Yeah, and this teacher had horses and always spoke about how much she loved them, showed pictures of her and the horses. So I did this whole, hey, just in case you didn't know, horse racing is kind of bad for the horses. Maybe don't watch it and give money to it and partake in it. And she wasn't a fan of that and didn't really like me after that because she viewed that sort of as me trying to be all high and mighty or something, I suppose, which my entire goal was just, hey, I'm 10 and I don't know a lot, but to my understanding, that's kind of wrong and you're supporting it. Just in case you didn't know it was wrong, it's wrong.
People have got to be pretty pathetic to dislike a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And just I imagine you in class being that sort of Lisa Simpson character of just I have these morals and I'm going to let you know what they are. And I've always admired that about especially young autistic individuals because I did it and teachers didn't like me for the exact same reason. Summer, you are definitely not alone in that. I remember a particular incident. I don't know if I brought this up actually about the flying squirrel.
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, so back in my day, we had this thing called books. I know this is a crazy thought. We had to go to a library and walk up and down halls and avoid ghosts and, the ghostbusters busting them ghosts.
But you had to go and procure them and find them. That was half the fun, wasn't it?
And I had many, many David Attenborough books and encyclopedias, which I would often read because I was definitely autistic. yeah, so the next day I went into class and I brought the book with me. I was like, hey, and it wasn't I'm going to show you, because I just didn't really have that in me when I was 8. I learned that later on.
Did you get called arrogant a lot when you were 8, 9, 10 years old? Because I sure did.
I get called arrogant now, but yeah, I got called arrogant a lot when I was a kid.
I was an arrogant child, apparently.
Yeah. So I took it in and I showed her in front of everyone. Again, it wasn't my intention, not very good with timing, me. And I just went, oh, look, miss, I told you there's a flying squirrel. And I put it up like this. She just went red, just like red. And she confiscated my book and put it in her drawer and told me to sit down and be quiet.
Knowledge is power.
and I was like... And to be honest, I remember that so clearly as a memory from when I was a kid. And it hugely affected my trust in teachers after that, and it hugely affected me as a person in my educational process. Did you have anything like that?
Yeah, I've had experiences of that. I remember when I was in sixth form, I had an English teacher who just took a disliking to a couple of people in her class, me being one of them. And we ended up having what I thought was a debate, which turns out it wasn't a debate because my opinion wasn't valid, in an English lesson about a certain book, to which she was like, no, this is what the author was trying to say. And I replied with, no offense, miss, the author's been dead for 100 years. So how do you know what they were trying to say? English literature is interpretive. You know, if we're looking at the semiotic value of this and blah, 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 blah. And I got kicked out of the class for talking back in a debate. So
isn't that the point of a debate? Yeah,
that's what I was trying to make the point of. And then I got a really low grade on an essay, took it to another teacher, and then got an A. So that caused a lot of drama. I know, yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. But so Summer, we've given a couple of examples there of when teachers can bully you. What do you think is the alternative? What do you think that teachers could be doing better for young neurodivergent people like yourself to help them grow rather than crush them and put them down?
Recognize that just from the very beginning, this is a child and you are an adult, and you need to remember that is very different positions, and don't try and abuse power or, teach through fear or something like that, which I have seen numerous times. And teaching through fear is not the most brilliant thing, in my opinion. In fact, it's quite ineffective, because rather than being educated, you're scared. It's two separate things. I think as a teacher, you just have to be aware of yourself and what you're saying and how much it can affect who you're talking to. And that when someone's in their developmental stages in life, they're going to take any random moment, not random, but any moment could be a key part of their development, and could be something that they remember and take with them forever, and something that completely shapes how they are and who they are as a person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as somebody who has extreme hyperphantasia, I find whenever I'm reflecting on a memory, it's so vivid and visceral. There are times in life now where I will be at work, whether it's talking with a client or talking with a colleague, and somebody will use that hierarchical authority. And it's not a case of, I don't care whether you agree with me, do it because I say so. I find that I go from 30 years old back to being that kid stood at the front of that classroom and feeling ashamed and embarrassed and stupid. And I find the internal monologue I have bullies me much rather than the people that do it. So I think that's one of the big things that teachers really have to think about, is when they're talking to young people in general, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent, you are teaching them life lessons, not just lessons. And it will affect them for the rest of their lives. There are many times where I feel like I'm in the school playground and I'm nearly 30 years old. And I think a lot of people that are listening or watching this will reflect on that. Those feelings of that internal monologue where people are saying what they've said to us and we're just repeating it because it's been so deeply ingrained, because it's happened at such an important, integral time in our lives.
I just want to say that, I've been doing this a long time, as you know, well, it feels like a long time. And the words you just said, and your advocacy, and how insightful you are becoming, is just made me so proud of you.
You
As a
talking to me?
mother.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you, man.
Oh, thanks.
Like, seriously, like, we talked about this last time. Summer and I, but we're veterans. And honestly, like, just what you just said then is just so perfect. You're so insightful. And I was just sitting here going, wow. And yeah, I love seeing your progression, and I love, and this is why I want you to keep this in, because I want everyone to know, like, Simon massively lacked confidence at the beginning of doing this podcast, at the beginning of this whole series.
It literally took me a year to get on the microphone. Like, we've had this idea for such a long time.
Yeah. And that literally comes down to the fact that you were bullied so much, bullied at school, bullied in your workplace,
Online as well.
bullied online. I mean, yeah, tell me about it. But it does. It just, it changes us. Like, and it's so sad, because I always think, imagine how amazing we could be if we did the things we did, but without the tragic backstory. Like, if you look at and hear the stories of, like, all the really successful neurodivergent people, that we've all had to fight. We had to fight just for the right that every other person, every neurotypical person has every day. I'm not saying neurotypical people don't get bullied. I'm obviously not saying that. But I'm saying that it does seem like it's the most common thing that we have in common. It is the thing that I think that bonds so many of us, is that past traumatic experience of just being treated so badly because we're different, because we're odd, because we're a bit strange to others, because we have different way of looking at things, and different ways of behaving, and different ways of acting, and different ways of calming down. We're just different, and people don't respond well to difference. And I think when it's a kid that's bullying you, I think that's really horrible. When an adult is doing it, I think it's disgusting.
I'm interested to know your perspective on this, Summer. Obviously, like, if you're, being at a university and being as young as you are as well, I'm sure you get a lot of people that are patronizing because of how old you are. I struggle with it. I seem to, like, code switch. I go from 0 to 100 when I feel like people are disrespecting me or being rude to me or being aggressive. How do you find navigating the world with the experiences that you've had at school and changing schools? How are you finding you respond to adversity?
I think a very conflict avoidant to start off with. Very, if I'm gone. I'm not involved in conflict. That's my
pure
whole
flight, no fight.
Yeah, I'm very flight, and I think I'm quite the opposite to defensive. I think I'm more distance myself, move away as fast as possible, which is obviously quite different to a lot of the people I know too. For example, my mother is very defensive. It's not aggressive, it's defensive. It's, are you starting something because I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna lose in this thing because I've had that experience and I'm not doing that again. Whereas my experience is, oh, you want to fight? Oh, no, thank you. I am not into that. And I know at university, there's a lot of actually, I mostly just receive, oh, you must be a prodigy or something. Here's a math. Here's math. Do math. Which is not my thing. Bit awkward, to be honest, because they're like, you must be a tiny Sheldon or something. Which I love Big Bang Theory, but no.
Yeah.
Not what I'm going for there. I think I've just come out very conflict avoidant and very scared of conflict. And I definitely have a lot of problems when I'm trying to talk to an authority figure. So even in university, when I try and speak to a lecturer, it's immediate. It's so confusing to me because there's that difference in lecturers are used to speaking to other adults, basically. And so there's a lot more sort of understanding, and there's also a lot more passion, generally, I find. And so when I walk up to them and I start a conversation and they're not trying to intimidate me or I'm not feeling insulted or anything, I get very confused and I don't know where to take the situation because it's unfamiliar territory, because I was going in there prepared for them to tell me no and tell me I'm wrong or something and send me away.
Yeah, it's the dismissiveness. I find I have a continuous instinct of wanting to be liked. Doesn't matter who I'm speaking to. It's like I just want them to like me. And I think a lot of that comes from feeling like people don't like me or want to speak to me. So we've talked about your school experience before summer. I know it's not that fun, but it's unfortunately just kind of the topic that we're talking about. Before you were homeschooled, was it bullying that led you to coming out of school, or was it that the system didn't work for you? What led you to where you're at now?
Both of those things, but primarily the bullying. I actually spoke to my psychologist at the time who just basically told me, don't do high school. You will not make high school. Don't even try that. Do not do that to yourself. Do not subject yourself to that. So I went distant education in year 7, which year 7 is when you start high school. I'm not sure how it works in the UK, but yeah.
No, it's the same here.
Awesome. That's what we do. And I actually found a lot of the teachers at distant education were neurodivergent, and they were teaching distant education because the system wasn't working for them. So that was, in my opinion, a much better environment. And it was a lot more flexible, and there was a lot more understanding too. But yeah, primary school, not working for me, especially in the bullying aspect.
Did you find that it was, because obviously we talked about teachers picking on kids and things like that, but I mean, you said you didn't have any friends. Did anyone try and make friends with you, or did you try and make friends, or was it just, there was just no one there that you bonded with?
I had friends kind of early on, which were very manipulative people. I ended up with very manipulative people because I was very just tell me what to do and I will do it. I don't know what I'm doing here, so I'm going to have you tell me what to do. Which yeah,
that's common. Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't tend to be great people. So I had one particular friend, I suppose, not really, who basically it was I don't talk, I don't have opinions, I do what they say, which that was totally working for me for a while, until I decided, okay, maybe this isn't healthy, and actually cut them off. We were still in the same class, but it was actually in a pool. Well, it was a festival at school, and I swam over to them, a doggy paddle, because I couldn't swim properly. And I told them that basically they sucked and they needed to do some self-reflection before they spoke to me again. And the doggy paddled away. It was a very empowering moment.
And how old were you at this point?
But I think 11. And then I sank to the bottom of the pool and cried.
Oh yeah, no, that is a very fair representation of a lot of my experiences, where I feel like I'm the one who's mature and taking the moral high ground, and then as soon as I walk away, the inner child comes out and I just burst into tears.
Yeah, it's like, why did I do that? What was that? Why did I think that was okay?
Why did I do that? I should have just sucked it up. And yeah, that feedback loop from hell.
Which I then tried to apologize to them, but they didn't accept my apology, which I'm now glad that they didn't. And so for my last year of school, I had no one. And that's not like a sad cinema, grey TV. I have no one. Nobody in that class I could talk to comfortably. I felt like I could be totally safe around or comfortable around. I didn't have anybody in that class, in that school. So that was great. But to be honest, that was much better than having manipulative people.
So Summer, like I know we did talk about this before. Like, how does it feel when your own community turn against you? When all you're trying to do is help?
I think notably that happens a lot within the neurodivergent community because a lot of people are very traumatized from being bullied. And so everybody tends to be extremely defensive, which creates a lot of, I don't want to call it drama because it's not drama, but like conflict. That's the word, not drama, conflict. And it makes such a toxic environment, which is, I think, the first thing I noticed going into advocacy. It was such a toxic environment because so many advocates were advocating for very similar things, but hated each other because in their eyes, they attacked each other and were going for different things. And it seemed a bit ridiculous to me because it was sort of like, hey, we are all neurodivergent people trying to get neurotypical people to understand and trying to get support and trying to get these things. But we're fighting between each other instead of with each other. Why? How did this happen? And you think you find a safe place in a community, but then, for example, you don't understand something that's going on, or you're not up to date on drama or something like that, and I am calling that drama. And suddenly you've become a bad person in their eyes, and you have done something extremely wrong and very unforgivable, which is insane to me because something I've never paid attention to is the numbers on my page, but also I can post something or say something and then there will be a large drop. And I'll look back at that and go, I have done something to offend mass amounts of people.
Yeah, I've been there.
And, I reread that post, not because I'm like, oh no, my numbers are dropping, oh goodness, but because I'm like, have I done something terribly wrong? Oh my goodness, I don't want to hurt people. Have I hurt people? And some of them I look back and I still don't know what I said that was wrong in there. I know my biggest drop was probably me coming out, to be honest, which, you know what? Those people shouldn't have been on my page anyway. If that's going to make you leave, leave.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be missed.
Yeah, that was a nice way to weed out the people.
Yeah, I did a similar thing where I did like a pro trans post, and I was obviously supportive of the trans community, having friends, many of my friends who are trans, and wow, people were like, I followed you for years. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. I'm like, what? That I'm happy that people are themselves and that they are enjoying their life and they can be themselves. Like, what is
I had
wrong?
an entire, someone replied with this entire, I thought you were a good person, but you're coming after the children now. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what do you mean?
Okay.
How did we get here?
I just want to make it clear. I'm not trans. I don't speak for trans people. I'm supportive of trans people, and I'm just supportive of people being themselves and being happy in their own bodies. That's what I'm very supportive of. And I just want to make it clear that those people aren't after your children, to the best of my knowledge. They're just trying to be themselves, and as long as they're not hurting anyone, which they're not, leave them alone, I guess. Just let them be them. And it is funny because I think a lot of those people that are saying stuff like that, it's not because that's how they think or how they feel. It's because they're jumping on a bandwagon of how other people who they like or they respect or they admire, and they're just copying them. I think there is a huge, huge issue with people just, like I said, wanting to desperately be part of that group. And I think you're absolutely right, Summer, about people being, especially neurodivergent people, being like traumatized and needing, feeling that desperate need to fit in, and online is where they have found their people, and they're scared to be ostracized again. And it's that fear that drives them into picking on others, and then they become the bullies. And they don't even realize that they're doing it. They don't realize they have now become the bully. because you're picking on someone else who might have used the wrong terminology. They might have said, "Oh, I'm high functioning," and people are, "You're you can't say high functioning." Now, I don't agree with the terminology high functioning, but if someone describes themselves as high functioning, I'm not going to attack them for it. I'm just going to, I might do a post and go, "Oh, I don't think high functioning should be used." And I hope that one day that somebody sees that and maybe that will change their mind. But I think attacking individual people, I just think it's counterproductive. You can argue your point, you can try and change someone's mind, but I don't think that Facebook is always the best place to do it, or any sort of social media. And I have learned that lesson the hard way, because I thought it was. I thought people could be reasonable and you could have a decent conversation with people. You can't, or you can, but very rarely.
One of the things that I find interesting about social media, and I'm not, like I've said previously, I'm not a big user, but I have been using it to promote this podcast. And one of the things that I find really interesting, and it's something that I discussed with a psychiatrist when I've had counseling before, is that people have an opinion and have evidence of it once and it's reaffirmed, and then that's it, it's their belief system. As an example, a lot of people have the opinion that women are bad drivers. You'll have one person that will be driving down the road, somebody will pull out on them, they'll drive past, look in through the passenger window and see that there's a woman driving, and their reaction will be, "See, I told you, all women drivers are bad drivers." They'll have one sense of evidence and then it'll reaffirm their belief system to the point of it's universal. And I found when people are discussing high functioning or labels that, within the autistic and neurodivergent community as a whole, we seem to be stuck on language and labels and terminology. And I think that's because people have been on the end of it. We've all been given names and labels and been told we're something that we're not. I think that's a universal thing that we can all agree with. But it's the reaffirming. It's I have a slight opinion. I have read honestly, the amount of people that quote Wikipedia pages on comments is just a joke. You do know that it's public and you can edit it. And this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that people will have an opinion that is not reaffirmed with context or experience. It's a taught opinion. It's a taught behavior. It's a copy and paste opinion. And when you go online, it really disheartens me in the sense of somebody goes, "Well, I know one autistic person and they're not like that. So, that's it. That's the fact. Take it or leave it. And if you disagree with it, you're a non-person. You should kill yourself," or things like that. Some of the comments that people put are absolutely horrific. And I think it's really sad when you can see people that have been bullied and have been ostracized, who not only come back at people with the behavior that they've experienced, but they double down on it. And they go, "Not only do I not think that you're a good autistic advocate, I don't think you're autistic. I think you're a liar. And you should get off social media and probably go and off yourself." And it's like, what are we supposed to do with that?
I had that exact email that told me to kill myself because I'm not autistic and I'm making money from pretending I'm autistic. I'm still waiting for all this money. Do you ever worry, Summer, about the future? Like, for you personally, in the adult world, as it were. I won't say being an adult because I don't want to insult you. Because none of us want to be adults, let's be honest.
I'm still avoiding it.
I mean, I have a teddy bear and a funky t-shirt. I don't care. In the working world, I've experienced bullying. I actually had to put a complaint in against my manager who was bullying me, and I got moved off of his shift, and he kept his job, which was insane. And we all, we know Simon was picked on in his job, as many neurodivergent people are. I have a friend who was so badly bullied, he hasn't worked for 20 years, and he just has horrific fear. He's tried to go back to jobs. It's not like he just gave up. He has tried and tried, but he has such anxiety and such horrific fear. Plus he's dyspraxic, so his speech is affected by his dyspraxia. So he talks very quickly to the point where sometimes it's difficult to understand what he says. And he has such a fear of work. So does that ever worry you?
A fear for the future was something that I had a lot because the world, just to start with, the world not in the best state. From the very moment, I could start understanding the world around me, I was taught, oh yeah, just so you know, everything's kind of dying and wrong. Just so you know, that's a thing. You're inheriting a terrible world. And, you get taught early on pretty negative, like the world is destroyed, you're going to be screwed, basically. Which, that's not a great thing to grow up on. Hasn't done me much good. And I think hearing it so much in the weirdest way is I'm desensitized to the concept that the future is going to be terrible. So it's not something that I can feel like I worry about anymore because I've done it so much to the point where I've accepted whatever's going to happen is going to happen. It might suck, it might not. We're just going to roll with however it goes.
You can influence it, but you can't control it.
Yeah, you're taught from such an early age. It's screwed. You as a person personally can't actually make change. You need a lot of people to make change, and there's not a lot of people who want change. And either way, it's the people in power who make change. So you can't really do anything. And by the way, terrible thing to teach early on without also teaching some great stuff between that. Just early on telling someone you're screwed, not a good mentality. Doesn't help with mental health, just to put that one out there.
Do you have a worry that sometimes you may isolate yourself out of fear of interacting? Because I had a big period of just a self-diagnosis to diagnosis. It was about a year. And I became very reclusive because I just went, do you know what? No matter who I let into my life, they're going to screw me over. So I'm just not going to have anybody in my life. I'll just have my very close family. I'll have a few people that I'll keep at an arm's distance, but everybody else might as well not exist. Do you find that sometimes you fall into that because it's easier to not have anybody than to be let down?
For a very long time, I was in that position, especially because my thought process is every time I've gone out looking for someone to be my friend, I have been desperate. And the type of person to pick up someone desperate for friendship, in my experience, has been manipulative and has been looking to take advantage of my desperation. So for a very long time, my mentality was, I'm not going to go out of my way to talk to people. I'm not going to make a big job to interact with people. And I'm going to continue to do what I want to do. And if I come across someone who's doing the same thing as me, then maybe I'm going to find someone who's nicer and better. Rather than looking for someone, I hope to run into someone type thing, which left me with nobody for a very long time, which I was sort of okay with. I was kind of busy being annoyed at TV for romanticizing the concept of friendship at the time, I think. Because you'd see, for example, Friends on TV, and it's like, why can they do that and I can't? They argue and they hate each other sometimes, and yet in the next episode they're fine. How and why type thing. And I was, I think, just busy being annoyed at that kind of TV for ages, going, you're making it look easy and that's just mean.
It's really hard to differentiate fiction and non-fiction in sitcom television. Because
I swear sitcom television ruined me for a bit there.
Oh, you've discussed it, Jordan, about the sitcom dad. And I've talked about it before where I've seen things like Friends, and you go, I can't wait to have a big group of friends that no matter how bad of a day I have, no matter how big of a meltdown, they will still love me and not judge me. You go out into the world and you go, oh, nobody's like that, because these are fictional characters that somebody has written because they also do not have those characters in their life and are bringing them into reality. This is the thing that I've learned the hard way, unfortunately, about media and TV. It messed up my expectations of friendship.
Yeah, it
massively.
Really does.
Yeah, I was about to say the expectation thing. It's so hard to navigate when you're neurodivergent, because, you know, we are counted as vulnerable people. We are often very naive. I know I've been called green a lot, which
Oh,
back in
yeah,
my
I've
day
had
meant
that.
naive. Yeah.
I get
you're
called
so
green all the time. Like, oh, you're so green.
Sophie has it. You know, she's always called, oh, you're so innocent. You're so innocent. Because we, in an odd way, we are. I think that if I wasn't bullied, I would be a lot more innocent. I'd be a lot nicer. I think, you know, I try and be as nice as I possibly can, but I always have that something in me of like, I don't trust you. You're trying to hurt me. So when you go around constantly thinking, oh, everyone's just trying to hurt me, everyone's out to get me, everyone is a threat, you become threatening. You become defensive. You become the bully. And a lot of people would go, oh no, I like Joey's, you know, he says it how it is. And I'm like, that's because I'm testing everyone I meet. Because I'm like, are you going to be my friend, or are you not going to like me? So I will just say exactly what I feel, and I will just tell people nowadays exactly how I feel, because I'm so sick of pretending to be nice. If I'm nice, people will know that I'm nice. If I'm nice to people, they won't go, is he putting that on for a show? Because he's always nice. So, you know, but I'm not. I'm not always nice. I'm often very not nice. And that's just who I am, because that's the world that I exist in. It's a not very nice world. So, you know, if you're going to go around being nice to everyone all the time, people aren't going to trust you. And I don't trust people who are nice all the time. I don't trust that. And so I'd rather that someone was honest with me. But then that's the problem, is that when we are honest, and I think this is what you were saying, Summer, is that, you know, you're not going out of your way to bully people or hurt people, but you might inadvertently do it because you're being honest, because you're being true to yourself, and because you are saying what you're thinking. And it's so odd to me that people call us rude and abrasive or opinionated, when it's like, well, we're actually just being honest. And it's people who aren't like that. They're the ones you shouldn't really trust, because they're faking their niceness. So if I'm nice to you and I say you're a lovely person, that's because that's true. And people who know me know that. I wanted to sort of end this on one last question, one last statement, is we are often thought of as being oversensitive. Like, oh yeah, you know, you just took it the wrong way, or that's not bullying, that's banter. Oh, they're just having a bit of fun. And even worse is how much boys get away with stuff over girls. Boys will always be like, oh, you know, they're just boys are boys.
Boys will be boys.
Yeah, boys will be boys. But in my experience, girls are a lot meaner to me.
Girls can be,
and they can be, yeah, they can be so mean.
Yeah, but
a lot of it, you know, so I'll be, oh, I'm being bullied, but people don't take that seriously, because in their mind, that what's happening to you is not bullying. And I've had a lot of people talk to me about this, saying, oh, you know, my son's being bullied, but the school's not taking them seriously. And I think what it is for me especially is we're so highly sensitive, and we have so much like rejection sensitivity dysphoria, that a lot of the times when people are just taking the mickey or doing a little bit of banter, we take it so personally, it feels like bullying. So my question is, if something is banter and it's meant as fun and it's not meant in a malicious way, but we take it and it's hurtful because of how sensitive we are, which again, it's not our fault. We didn't choose this. This is just who we are. Is that still bullying? Because I think it is. And I think people should be aware of, like, banter can be bullying. And if somebody says to you, oh, by the way, that you've crossed a line, or that feels very hurtful, don't dismiss that and go, oh, you're just being oversensitive. Then that becomes from banter to actual bullying. If you are saying, oh, you're oversensitive, you're taking that the wrong way, then you are picking on someone immediately. So, like, have you experienced that, and what do you think about that?
So I think to start off with, a lot of people say that bullying is about intention, which most of the time it is about intention. But I think if, for example, you tell someone that they've gone too far and they dismiss that, it is definitely bullying after that point, because you've told them to stop because it's hurting your feelings. And if they just turn around and say, oh, you need to, man up or something ridiculous like that, then at that point it's bullying, because it's being mean and knowing that you're being mean. It's not necessarily about intention, but it's about doing something wrong by that person and knowing that you're doing something wrong by that person.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll add to it in that there are times when people will have jokes with me, and I take it the wrong way it's intended, or if it gives me a negative reaction, normally I'll say something to somebody, they go, oh, it was just a joke. And I go, it's only funny it said, well, I didn't find it funny. So it's not a joke to me. As you may find it funny, but it depends on who is on the end of the joke to decide whether it's a joke or not. Right, okay. And then again, if somebody says to me, oh, man up, or you're just being sensitive, my go-to response is whatever excuse you want to use to continue your selfish behavior, go right ahead, but it ain't going to fly with me. That may be abrasive or a little bit aggressive, but if we're allowed to throw out statements and we have no accountability for the reaction, then respect goes both ways. And if somebody doesn't like what you've said and they have an abrasive reaction to your abrasive statement, then we're just in a feedback loop from hell where we're going, well, you've said this and you've said this and then and back and forth and back and forth. So if somebody says to you, I didn't appreciate the way that you said that, don't say that they're too sensitive. Just reflect on what you've said and gone, maybe I could see that. Or just have a little bit of empathy with people, because at the end of the day, banter is banter, but that's earned. You can't meet somebody for the first time and if somebody meets me for the first time and then makes a short joke, I'm like, you're an asshole. If my friend says it to me, who's known me for a long time, and he's earned the ability to have a joke with me, it's fair game. It's all a bit of fun. Jordan and I have great banter, but it's because we've got a friendship built on love and trust. If you go in day one and you just start firing off at people, then you're going to get shots back, unfortunately. So you've just kind of got to just have a bit of awareness. And if people don't like it, you've just got to take it on the chin, and it's tough, especially if you're in a management position.
Oh, yeah.
A member of your staff turns to you and goes, I didn't appreciate the way you said that. Christ on a bike, don't reply with, well, you've taken it the wrong way. No, it's not up to you how people take it. You've got to just accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I mean, I've been guilty of it. We talk about you and I having our banter. And I always worry sometimes, because I am banter. That is kind of my whole thing. It's my dynamic in our family. We're always taking the mickey out of each other. And I think that's probably one of the good reasons why my kids never felt like they were that badly bullied. Of course, obviously they were picked on. Obviously they were bullied. They're neurodivergent, kind of comes with the territory, but it never really hurt them or traumatized them as much as it did me, because they would come home and, we would laugh at it. We would be like, what did they say? That's pathetic. And we would laugh at those people. And I didn't have that. I'd go to school and I was badly bullied, and then I'd come home and then I was badly bullied. So I was like, I didn't have a space where I felt like, oh, this is a safe space. So I always tried to make it a safe space. But, I talked about this on the episode with Sophie. It was my biggest fear. My biggest fear as a parent was that my kids would be bullied. It wasn't, oh, my kids won't hit educational targets. It wasn't, oh, my kids aren't going to, you know, be doctors or lawyers or, you know, pop stars or footballers. I don't care what my kids do as long as they're happy. I just cared so much that they weren't bullied, and it's my biggest fear for any child or any person, but especially for neurodivergent kids, because we are so sensitive, we are so different, and we have so much potential, and a lot of that potential is just crushed at such an early age, where we're just like, well, we're not capable, we're not good enough. And I think a lot of people need to realize as well that stopping a child from exploring their special interests and making out that their special interests are something kooky or funny or weird rather than incredible, amazing, and integral to the human condition, I think until people start realizing that, then, you know, these kids are never going to reach their full potential, and that is a form of bullying. And it's not deliberate. It's the school system, but I think the school system overall literally crushes neurodivergent kids. Crushes a lot of kids, neurodivergent or not, but especially neurodivergent kids get crushed by the school system. So I think in that system in general is a system that's designed to bully children into being like they think children should be. So it's like bullying them into submission. It's kind of like the army, you know. Yeah, you know, break them down to build them up. But this isn't the army.
But they never build them up. They just break them.
They just break them, and that is what's happening. So it's not just like what people think is bullying. It is the system that bullies us. We just, yeah, that's just how it goes.
It's completely supposed to just fit a particular type of person, and neurodivergent people don't tend to be that person.
It's hard to put somebody in a box when that person doesn't see the box.
So my final question to you, Summer, is: do you have any advice for parents out there who are listening, or, you know, young people such as yourself who have, you know, connected with the things that we've said and are looking for inspiration, because you provide that inspiration every day online, webinars, and through all your activity, through your programs that you do, you provide that inspiration for especially young people like yourself to look up to.
Well, that hadn't occurred to me, the word inspiration and me in the same sentence, but yeah, okay, we can roll with that one. I think a big piece of advice to parents from the perspective of the thing that helped me the most is something you mentioned before. When you talk to someone you trust about bullying and you can laugh at what they said, it makes you feel so much better. Because I remember coming home sobbing sometimes, and, you know, I'd say, oh, they said such and such to me, and then have a family member turn around and go, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. Why would they say that? It doesn't. And having someone that you care about, someone that you trust, someone that cares about you back, having you both be able to sit there and look at what that person said, and from the perspective of someone who truly cares about you, to be able to go, well, that was stupid. That person, that was ridiculous. Why would they say that? That doesn't even... And being able to laugh at it puts it in a completely new perspective that made me feel so much better. Especially because I didn't notice I was being bullied for a very long time. I was just like, well, this is how people are. You don't enjoy interactions with them because you feel sad at the end. That's human connection. And it was only realized after I was writing an apology letter to my teacher, because she seemed like she didn't like me and I didn't know why. And so I wanted to apologize to her. And my mom picked up on that and then was like, no, that's not how that works. You've done nothing. You shouldn't be writing an apology letter. And that's when it all came to light. Oh, this shouldn't happen. Okay. And the most healing thing I did was laugh at how stupid people were. with people who I cared about, which was my siblings mostly at the time, really.
Wonderful advice. Like you really should believe someone that you are inspiring, because that has inspired me. So please take that away from our conversation today. And I think that's a fantastic place to end it. As always, to all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Summer, thank you so much for coming back on with the podcast. It's been great to have you back. I always love our conversations. I really feel like I learned so much from both of you in just being able to be candidly open in a space and share neurodivergent experiences. Again, it's coming back to that tribe, everyone. I think it's really important that we keep fostering and growing this tribe. So if you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe to hear more from us, and please rate and leave a review, because it does really help. Your feedback is invaluable. So as always, thank you so much for listening. Jordan, say goodbye to Summer and to all of the wonderful people listening.
Goodbye to Summer, and goodbye to all the wonderful people who are listening, but not to the bullies. I don't like them.